Welcome to the Money and Flow podcast, where your health and wellness needs are met. Did you know that women and women of color don't talk that much about money? And did you also know that the health and wellness community is a $600 billion business? And did you also know when it comes to making decisions with our health and wealth, women aren't at the forefront of decision making? We're here to change that. This is the first podcast that discusses women as well as women of color for their health and wellness needs. And without further ado, Eugene George. All right. Hello. Welcome to the Money and Flow podcast. I am your host, Eugene George, not to be confused with Euphigenia. I know that's something that I get called a lot. Anywho, I'm really excited because our first back to school guests for our back to school series is Ashley Hill, and she is the founder as well as the CEO of College Prep Ready. So yeah, welcome Ashley to the show.
Thank you so much, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm really excited to be here.
Yes, and as you know, I'm very excited to talk about money, scholarships. I'm very, very excited. But before we actually dive into the scholarships, can you tell me a little bit about your money story? Because that's something that's really, really important, and I think the listeners should hear that.
Yes, and I love this question, and it kind of does tie into what I do, so it's interesting. Just kind of growing up, I'm a military brat twice. My father retired from the Army. My mother was a Marine. So they instilled in us growing up to make sound habits, including financial habits, because my parents taught us that your financial health is just as important as your physical health, your mental health, emotional health, and all of that. And so I was so fortunate that I was able to have that great example in front of me growing up, and just early on, simple things like saving a portion of our birthday money, or putting money away, starting that bank account, and so forth and so on. It's just growing up in that, kind of family. My parents, I can say this, I was so glad that they didn't hide finances from us. We saw them, my brothers and I, we saw them writing checks, and we saw them setting budgets. And when I was younger, I was obsessed with Pocahontas, right? Like most girls were.
Oh yeah, you got to paint the colors.
I'm like, I want it. I want the t-shirt. I want the socks. I want the shorts.
I remember that.
Yes. So, my parents said, look, if you want all of that, you need to work. You need to save your money, and, you need to invest. And most importantly is understanding the difference between a need and a want, and how to work towards, securing those things. So that was my childhood. But that lesson has stayed with me. Even coming out of college, I was in corporate America about 8 years first. I just left about 1.5 years ago.
Oh, congratulations!
And those lessons still stayed with me. When bonus time came, don't spend up your bonus. Put money back. Save. Keep your debt at a minimum. And even I remember after I graduated from Kent State, that's where I did my undergrad at. I remember my dad telling me, he says, you need to open up a Roth IRA, even if it's $50 a month. And you know what? I listened to him. And I'm so glad, because today, even though, I'm doing the business full time, I'm still able to put away money for my future.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I'm a big fan of the David Bach, pay yourself first. Yeah. That is what I love about your money story specifically, because I think a lot of people that own businesses, and especially with women with businesses, sacrifice their money or sacrifice their well-being or their health because they're not thinking about, okay, how am I going to invest in myself? We're so focused on investing in others. So that's really awesome. Can you tell us what was your drive behind starting a full-time business? And then also, what were some of the systems and tools that who helped you get to this step that you are? And first of all, congratulations, because it's very amazing. Of course, always.
Always. I know you know about that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, I really, it's interesting. When I went off to college, at that time, I didn't have any plans of starting a business. But I love to write growing up. I thought I was going to be a writer, and it's funny because I write now, but I ended up going into research analysis in corporate America. I
Okay.
used to analyze products and chemical manufacturers, and that was my background. That's what I went to school for. But it's interesting. Whenever I would come back home, so I lived in Cincinnati at the time, but I was going to Kent State, so it's like a 4 hour
Drive.
the parents, that I babysat their children, growing up. And so now they're high school age. And they're like, well, actually, you got through this process pretty okay. Can you help my kids? And it kind of started off as a passion, right? Like, oh, I love to do this. I didn't think to charge. I was helping them research colleges. We're looking at financial aid packages. And I have a younger brother. So, I was trying to help him, get through that process, and found out that I really loved the research portion, which made sense because I did biology, which was research based.
Right.
But I didn't think I could make money from it. It wasn't even a thought. And so I did that in the summers. I would come back home, and as I was getting closer to graduating from Kent State, and I was looking at jobs, I said, well, I really do want to turn this into a paid, a business. I said, but I don't think I'm ready. Right? Let me find that good old office job, and that's what I did. Found a good old office job back at home in Cincinnati. And during that time, I realized that I needed an audience first. I knew that I was on to something, but I didn't quite have the audience. And as you know, without an audience and customers, you don't have this.
Yes,
And
that's very
so
real.
yeah. And so even though I was in my mid 20s or so at the time, I began to sacrifice early mornings. I was up before work, 5, 6 a.m., just putting out content, because I figured that if I can put out the content, then I can attract the right people that need help with that. And so after work, I gave up going out and hanging out, and I would come straight back home, to the apartment, and I was working until, gosh, 10, 11, 12 at night. And so finally, I had hit year 8 working in the office world. And I realized, I said, I'm good at what I do. I've been doing this 8 years, but I'm not fulfilled by this. I'm coming in, I'm punching this clock, and I'm dealing with the dramas of the workplace. And at the time, I was the only African American female, so I was really dealing with a lot.
Oh yeah.
And you know what? Finally, last April, I said, I was like, my lease is up. My lease will be up here, and I'm gonna take this leap. And at the time, I had a few one-on-one clients coming in, and I had built a referral base over the years of giving and giving. I gave so much when I was working the business before and after work, and I just kind of really was kind of natural, kind of connected with, for example, tutoring companies that said, hey, we tutor, but we have kids that are going to college, right? So can you talk to them? And then, I would come back and ask friends in the neighborhood, right? You have kids going, let's work together with your kids.
Right.
So I really started grassroots. But in terms of systems, I can tell you that I quickly got an automation tool because I knew that social media was important. And so I used Hootsuite, and I still use it. Because when I was at work, I couldn't be social like I wanted to. So I would automate that content. Another thing that I did is I got a scheduler, like a calendar for consultation calls. That way parents could schedule throughout the day while I was at work. And I would check emails during my lunch. I did have a business coach. It was more so I would call in. It was like a group call, and I would call in twice a month. And it was really for motivation at that point. But really, I relied heavily on Hootsuite and my scheduler to schedule calls.
Yeah, I mean, it's so crazy. One, that it doesn't actually cost that much money to start a business. I think people think like they're like, I'm gonna start a business. It's gonna cost 5,000 quadrillion dollars, and then you realize, oh, actually, you can go to an accountant, go to a lawyer if you're a little bit on the if you want to spend a little bit more, they'll help you, or you can do it on your own. So that's actually really good pieces of advice. And then also the getting up, the drive. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, which I want you to talk about, because millennials, as you know, we typically quit our jobs
Mhm.
The retention rate.
Mhm.
Sometimes we go, I'm also guilty of this, but we were like, okay, this profession or this was good. Now I want to try something else. I'm not really feeling this, you know. Can you talk about how the benefit of you staying at a job helped you with your business?
Yes, it did because I think, especially for millennials, especially going into I'll say any venture, whether it's business or something else, and
Hmm.
they want to leave their job, is taking that leap without any forethought can be very dangerous. First of all, you're living, right? You still have
Right.
to live, sleep, eat, have a cell phone. you
Right.
know, you have to have those basics. And um, I don't want to use the word delusional, but I think a lot of us are just kind of like jumping and you're just assuming that everything is going to work out. And
Hmm.
to be honest, when I first left, yes, it was smooth because I left I had saved a significant amount, and so I knew it would be okay, for a while. But still, I still had to maintain getting clients. I had to
Hmm.
network. I had to get up. I'm here during the day. I can't stay in the bed and watch Power and all these other shows. A
Right.
lot of people, something they don't know. I have a TV, but it's actually in storage. I don't even watch TV. I watch the news maybe a couple times a week to stay in
Hmm.
the know, but I don't even have my TV right up here, so I have no distraction. I had to eliminate that.
I know, that's crazy.
I know,
I'm
and now I
very
don't even
impressed.
miss it. It's so
Yeah.
funny. But yeah, take some time to really think this through. Play out the scenarios.
Right.
Um, don't make assumptions. Get advice. Don't stay inside of your own head. That was one thing
Hmm.
I did is I talked it through, especially with I had a business coach. I said, look, this is what I plan to do. You
Right.
know, can you give me some insight into that? So yeah, don't do it alone.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm very, very impressed. And I definitely think that if you stay, sometimes you got to stay the course because the course is going to help you see where you need to go. I am impressed with the fact that you don't have a TV. You're like those,
Yeah.
that, I don't know if you heard of the minimalists.
Yes.
Okay, see, I already knew you were on that grind. Yeah. Now I watch TV because I have quote unquote future kids, so I watch a lot of cartoons with
There you
them.
go.
But no, I definitely understand the like, I don't need a TV right now, you know. So
I'll pull it out a little bit later.
yeah, when the page, you know, I get it when you get the goals. Yeah, I think this is the first time I've lived with a TV ever after I believe. Yeah, since college, because I was a latchkey kid. So I
Mhm.
always watched television. So when I became an adult, I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
I could tell you every phrase or quote, but I can't. I need to take a break. So I understand the no TV thing.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is what I'm super excited to talk about is more about college, particularly grad school, different scholarships, 529s. I'm super, super excited. Before we jump into that, I do have sort of a side note about this, which makes me really excited.
Mhm.
When it comes to college, if you're in college or out of college, or I mean, most of the people that typically listen to us is a little bit outside after college, 25
Mhm.
to 35, a lot, you know, women. But I will say that going back and looking at your student loans is so, so, so beneficial. I mean, fortunately, I did Teach for America.
Mhm.
And because I did that, I was able to pay back my loans quicker.
Mhm.
But the fact that there are so many resources out there to pay, repay, figure out different things is such a unique, it's a blessing, but I'm excited to talk to you about it because I don't think that many people know. So yeah, let's dive into
True.
that. Right, people don't, it's crazy, people don't know. And particularly with women of color, I think I was debating with a white guy
Mhm.
about money and scholarships, and I
Mhm.
remember him saying, this was like a couple weeks ago, and I remember him saying, well, you know, most people of color they get the most scholarships. And I said, no, actually, you're confused. And
Yeah.
we looked it up online, of course, because we have that magic box, the phone. And we
Mm-hmm.
found out that it's actually mostly white males that get scholarships. So I was like, come on now. It
Mm-hmm.
makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of privilege. And I think,
Yeah.
yes, acknowledging that there's privilege, but I think more importantly, acknowledging that there's just more stuff out there. So you can actually, I mean, I would love to get your take on it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to start with grad school or do you want to start with undergrad?
We can start with grad school and work our way down.
Cool, cool. Perfect. All right. So, grad school, let's talk about it. Let's talk about kind of your big takeaways when it comes to grad school, applying, jumping in, or paying it, because that's a lot of money.
Yes.
So,
And
so
I
yeah.
haven't gone to grad school. I did a master's. I can totally resonate with that. Here's the thing for those that are listening. I'll start with the doctoral programs. A lot of people going into getting their PhD, they're like, oh, I'm looking for a grad assistantship. I'm looking for a fellowship, from the
Mhm.
college. But something I've been learning, because right now I've got some students that are working on their PhDs. First of all, if it's not in writing, some programs are saying, oh, well, we said that, but we changed our minds, or there's been a shift in the program.
Mhm.
So get it in writing. If they promised, if they offered you 4 or 5 year program and it's paid, get everything in writing, because if they change and it was all verbal, you have nothing to substantiate, your point. The second thing is to understand that there are other types of scholarships that you're eligible for. Don't just rely on your school. For example, and I was sharing this the other day, that I encourage you guys, and this is really for all the levels, but especially for my doctoral students, is to think of yourself outside of just what you're focusing on. And I'll give you a good example. So, and I've been, the one thing I did see on the news the other day lately is about LeBron James, his new school, I Promise,
Yeah.
in Ohio. And I love the entire thing that he's doing with that. But if we go and look him up, all of his accomplishments, his achievements, they'll easily be available online, right? His statistics, how tall he is, what he weighs, all of that, his charity work. And so it's almost like his profile. You can pull that entire profile up. And so I would encourage you guys to create your own profile. Think about your hobbies, your talents, your passions. What are
Mm.
your accomplishments? Are you active in your community? And you should be. What about leadership experience? And use those things, the things about you that are unique to you. Use that to find scholarships in your community, in your professional associations. I can tell you that leadership is huge. I actually judge scholarship competitions from time to time, so I can tell you what we look for. And that's the number one thing is leadership. Um, so that's my doctoral. I'll say for anyone that's listening and that's in the professional programs like med school, law school, dental school, anything like that. Same thing goes for you. You're not just a future lawyer. You're not just a future physician, but maybe you love to play tennis. Maybe you're passionate about activism. Maybe you're passionate about the environment. There are also scholarships that cover that. Just being a minority, there are scholarships. So the biggest thing is don't assume that there's not funding out there for you.
Yes. I mean, I'm in grad school right now. That the grad school grind, woo, is no joke. However, yeah, I would say that you have to think of yourself as a market and you have to think of yourself as you're valuable. Like you have all of these skills, and I know all the people that are listening in have these crazy skills. Somebody's like a famous juggler. I know
Mhm.
that, that might sound crazy, but you could put that's a skill. That is
Yeah,
a skill. You have mastered it. There's mastery behind it. Um, I think that that's really, really beneficial for people to hear. I think the other thing that you mentioned too was that scholarships are everywhere and they're out there. There is so much money that is just never claimed every year. I forgot the statistic,
yeah,
but I remember it was like in the billions.
yeah,
It was like,
several billion.
yeah, it's just untouched, untapped. Um, I will say this too, one of my favorite, which is also going to be on the podcast for our back to school series, is that uh, there are most business or MBA students actually don't create businesses while they're in school, right? They just did a study on it. MIT Sloan's Business School found out that there's only 3% of MBA students that either start a business while they're there or start a business after. So if you've
Wow.
always had right, that's a really small percentage.
Yes.
That's why I don't know, I'm wearing Warby Parkers right now. This is not like a plug, but I'm wearing Warby Parkers because one, they're $108, but two, because they're from Philly, and three, because they actually started their business while they were at UPenn.
Mm.
So guess what you have to fall back on? School. So thinking about building your resume while you're there, more people are more receptive to talk to you because you're a student. So you can reach out to a lot of people that you probably wouldn't have had access to if you say like, "Hey, I'm a MBA student. Hey, I'm getting my master's and I want to talk to you about it." You're more likely to do that. So I 100% agree. You are your own product, and I've said this all the time. Like, you have so many different skills that are intersectional that can help you out. So, right?
And I love that you said that. And I know we're not doing like a strictly business chat, but I want to throw this nugget out there for those that are listening that are going into, doing their own business. Let the people that you want to connect with, let them see you doing something, because
Mm-hmm.
action begets action, I believe. And so, if you want to be this thought leader, or if you want to develop a product or whatever it is, let us see you in action. Let us see you sharing tips about it, or going to trade shows and showing us your product, or don't be afraid to do the work now.
Yeah. So I definitely agree. So there's that. There's one thing. The next thing that I want to talk to you about, because we talked about masters, we kind of know what's happening. There's $1 trillion of debt.
Yeah,
We're all in the little toilet hole. Some of us. I mean, I just jumped back into it, but
you'll
after
get out.
paying off right. After paying all of it off, I went right back into it, but it's a little different now.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, let's talk about, because I know there's a lot of people that are probably around like 30, 31, 32. Maybe some of them just got a little baby coming out, and they're probably panicking
Mm-hmm.
about what to do because they have student loans. They probably don't want their kids to have the same issue. Like, what would be your advice in terms of planning for having their kid, or even future planning? Because I know there's a lot of young people here, but
Right.
this is some. Everybody's like, "What? I don't even have a man or a woman. What are you
Right.
talking about?" I'm like,
My advice will be in two parts. Number one, if you have debt, I encourage you to do your homework and see if the available student loan repayment programs are a good match for you. I know one, because being a military brat, is if you're in the military, then you have certain benefits in terms of loan repayment. Of course, depending on the program, you most likely will have to serve a year for every year that of course, are receiving funding for college. And also, if you are going into public service, like if you're an educator, physician, something of that nature, there's a public loan forgiveness program. They have one just for physicians because, of course, their debt is staggering. What they're taking out, it's crazy. It's like six figures. Um, so there's those types of programs, but also don't neglect your state government. We're all paying our taxes, we're paying into programs, and so check with your state offices. You can do a quick Google search or make a phone call if need be, and just simply ask and say, look, this is the situation. I'm just seeing if those options are available. That's on the, I guess, after, the post side. But on the preventative side, right, for your child, is to start putting money away. And you mentioned earlier about a 529 plan. Of course, and I'll do a little plug, but if you work with a financial advisor, and maybe your future family member are listening on here, is don't be afraid to talk to an advisor. They can tell you about additional programs that may be a good fit for your family and for your needs.
mm-hmm.
But I do like 529 plans. I know other families like to just straight save the cash. But again, just consult with a professional. But I'll throw this one in there too. The youngest the scholarship that I've seen for the youngest um, person that I've ever seen is for a 4-year-old. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but yes, I said 4. But I'll tell you, at that age, they're obviously not writing an essay, right? Because that's not at their level yet. But at that age, it's based on hobbies, right? So if you see your child's 4 or 5 years old and maybe they're taken to singing or painting, cultivate those interests and then allow them, help them enter into these scholarship competitions, and that money can be set aside for college.
I cannot believe that. I don't know. That's crazy. Wait,
Yeah.
first of all, have you ever seen, I don't know if you, because you're on that no TV life right now. Have you ever seen that there used to be an old show which was only out for one season? I don't know why it was like the one season that I watched. It was on CBS and it was called Kid Nation. Did you ever see that? It was like it was like Lord of the Flies. They had a bunch of kids in different houses or different camps, and they were living in the desert. Like it was like the Wild Wild West. They had to dress up and all that stuff. And there were kids ranging from 14 to 9, and they all had to like learn how to work as a team, learn how to do all this stuff. But every challenger that won got a scholarship, and it was like a grand of gold, and then it went to like it was gone to their college of choice, whatever. I
Mhm.
was like, what? Like a little scholarship like that. I mean, I'm not saying go ahead and put your child in television, but
Right.
I was like, dang, this is crazy. But I've never heard 4 years old.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I'll tell you guys, now this one's for 5-year-olds, I'm getting ready to say, but one of the most popular ones, we're all on it every day, it's called Google. They have one for students as young as 5 years old every year. It's usually at the beginning of the year,
Hmm.
but they'll advertise it. So you guys, if you have a child in that age group, just kind of pay attention. But Google, like I said, we're all on it every day, but they do give out scholarships for children that young. So,
That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay. So what I want to talk about, because we did the post, we did the baby, the pre. You can. I had no clue. This is absolutely crazy. I'm like, wait, what? Uh,
right,
Girl, I'm gonna put that future kid in there. She better
right.
start tap dancing. No, I'm playing. I'm not gonna do that. It's not a Macaulay Culkin thing. But but yeah, okay. So let's talk about a little bit more of the preventative side, or like what to do next. Okay, so a lot of us are freaking out about paying back our loans. Like, yes, we might have these repayments. Some people work in government, some people are teachers, so they're able to pay it back.
Mhm.
What would be the deal with paying off your loans instead of pushing it back? Because that's what happens. It's like, I'm
Yeah,
going to put myself on this basic payment plan for $150 a month, and then this mad interest accrues. So instead of paying like the original 20 grand, you're paying like 100 grand for something that is crazy. Like, that's how they're making the money, is off that interest. So
yeah.
can you kind of talk to us in the audience about what to do now? Like, now that you have, this is how much you have, how are we going to negate all that interest?
Yes, and you hit on the first thing I wanted to talk about is that interest. Like you said, that is really a huge part of the problem. So this is what I believe is if you can avoid it at all costs, don't stay at the minimum. And even if you need to evaluate your current living, and I'm sure we could all find some things to cut back on, right? Whether it's cable, I know we love our cable, but
I think millennials, they said we cut the cord. They said like six
yeah,
million people aren't doing cable. That's because we're on other things. So it's
that's
not
true.
necessarily cable. It could be that Netflix, that Spotify, that HBO Go, which ends up becoming a cable bill.
Yeah, so the NFL package, my older brother, and he's out of school, but I mean, when he tells me how much it costs for the NFL package to have those special channels, I mean, so,
It's like $65. It's
yeah,
crazy.
it's crazy. And then also, maybe you have a little shopping addiction there. You can cut that back, right? And maybe you like to eat out a lot. I was talking to one of my friends, and she had happened to calculate how much she eats out. It was like $1,000 a month just eating out. So it's things like that, that you either need to cut back and use that additional money to pay more than the minimum, or if you're at the minimum already, then find additional ways to bring in money into your income. That could be a side hustle. That could be you do the, I think it's called DoorDash, where you do the food delivery. Maybe
Hmm.
you tutor on the weekends. Maybe you do hair. Maybe you bake. Whatever it is. But find some ways to cut into that minimum payment, because if you can cut down that interest, you can pay off that student loan a lot faster.
So we talked about the money, love the back to the school, but I think what we should do is tap a little bit into mental health, uh, because I really think that this $1 trillion debt is really affecting people in ways that they don't realize. That it Imagine never having any money at all, and then having six figures, where you're crying and you're like, I just wanted to get a good education. My
Yeah.
mom is crazy, especially older generations. They'll be like,
Hmm.
yeah, go to Harvard, go to this.
Hmm.
And they don't tell you, oh yeah, by the way, you have inflation is like mad crazy, and you don't have any money, which is very,
Yeah.
very stressful. So can you talk about different ways that you could uh, relieve your stress or relieve your mental health when it comes to dealing with student loans? Because I know it could be a huge, huge burden.
It can, and and I don't even know if we collectively we even know the extent of this impact yet of this $1 trillion debt. But like you said, just I'm having conversations with parents all the time that have this debt. And it's interesting because I think a lot of us think, oh, well, if I just made more money. But I'm even hearing from physicians with children that they're even on paper, they're making their, half a million or,
Mhm.
whatever a year. But when you take all that debt, they're living paycheck to paycheck, just like the average American, some of them,
I
you know?
cannot. Yes. I mean, you hit the nail. That I don't think people really take away that or get that, is that you could see Dr. Joe Smith,
Yeah,
and he could be literally living on, looking like he's living large, but he is straight up living paycheck to paycheck.
yeah,
And I don't think people get that. They're like, oh, this person's wealthy. Oh, this person is privileged. Oh, this person is this. No, 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 no. 70% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 70%.
yeah.
So if that's everybody,
Hmm.
everybody. So yes, I appreciate the fact that you said that, because I know a lot of women are like, growing up with my family, it was a struggle. And it's like, yeah, but growing up with, keeping up with the Joneses also becomes a struggle, because you still
Yeah,
trying to keep up with the Joneses, and the Joneses don't have any money either, because they're living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, look at Kanye with the Kardashians, like
see,
getting bankrupt left and right. But like, it's very complicated. So I'm
it
really glad
is.
that you brought that up. Yeah.
It is. And and I know we don't have all the answers, but I will offer this. Is that I believe we have to have a mindset shift about this, and you just touched on it. Is this? It's like this desire to be like somebody else
Hmm.
without knowing what they're dealing with behind closed doors. You're just seeing the glitzy part. You're just seeing that Mercedes Benz, but you don't know what they're not paying or what they're not doing to live this life. That Instagram life, I call it, that Facebook life.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
it requires a mindset shift. And first of all, you have to, I call it, live below your means, first of all, and make sure that you're making sound decisions. That way you can sleep at night,
Right.
knowing that you've done your best. But also, don't be afraid to reach out for help if you need to call whoever you owe, for that matter, and negotiate. That way you can have peace of mind. And like you said, pay yourself first. Put something aside.
Hmm.
Then do that, and don't feel bad, don't feel ashamed if you have to make those tough decisions.
Now, Ashley, you're doing a lot with some of the young folks and then some of the older folks. Where can we find you?
Yes. So the first place is my website, which is www.collegeprepready.com. and that's kind of the central location for everything. I do free classes inside of something called the Scholarship Bank. So I share resources and things like that. And then if you decide you would like to work further together, it's called Scholarship Success School, but that information is on there. I'm also on social media. So I'm on Twitter at Prep FOR College, on Instagram at Prep FOUR College, and then on Facebook at Prep the number 4 College.
Hey, super happy that you guys had the chance to listen to this podcast. If you haven't done it already, make sure you subscribe. We also have a Facebook group called the Money and Flow Podcast. We love you. We know that we have to do something completely different when it comes to our health and our wealth. If you have any questions or suggestions as to who should be on this podcast, we would love to hear your suggestions. You can email us at moneyandflowpodcast@gmail.com. That's moneyandflowpodcast@gmail.com. It is around Rosh Hashanah, so for most of y'all, Shabbat Shalom, and hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Take care.